Hello, how are you? It's Jeannie. I hope you're well. Before I forget, check to see that you're still subscribed. Can't figure that one out, why it unsubscribes some people. It does it to me and it does it to other people, so just give it a quick check. And if you haven't subscribed before, join us. We're a fun gang. So today I'm going to be reviewing the book The Women by Kristen Hannah, and going over my thoughts with, this story. And I want you to remember that I will give things away. So if you want to read it, don't watch this video till later, and then you can see if you agree or not. I'm going to get some tea going while I do a little blah, blah, blah. And I love this little glass teapot. Sorry, it's all glass. And I'm going to do a cranberry flavored tea bloom. These are so cool. Look at this. I don't know if you can see that. It's these leaves, tea leaves and flowers that are all just packed up into a little ball. You put it in here and add some hot water. And you're going to let it steep. I'll put that right there. And we let it steep for 5, 6, 7 minutes. And as it steeps, this ball of tea and flowers unfolds. And it's so pretty. So you'll be able to see it. And the cup I have is actually from Ireland. It is Balik, and we have a set of these. And it's got some really pretty kind of Celtic knots. Do you see that? So this is what I will drink my herbal tea out of. So in the last book review I did, which was Mind Games by Nora Roberts, did any of you read it after the book review, which gave away a lot of the stuff, but it was one I would say thumbs up, straight thumbs up. Anyway, so now this month's is Kristen Hannah, and it's The Women. And I will let you know in the description who else is going to be doing this as well. So if you are an ASMR creator, let me know and I will shout you out in the description. I know Kim from Angel on My Shoulder is doing it as well. So you'll have to check out her review as well. So let me know if you want to be a part of this, and we will be reviewing this on the last day of every month. So with that, when I was doing last month, I ended with some candy. They're Smarties. Well, I had a few left. I can't believe I didn't eat these. Anyway, I heard from a whole bunch of you Canadians, including Kim from Angel on My Shoulder, saying, wait a minute, Smarties, those aren't the Smarties we know. The Smarties we know are chocolate, and maybe they had sprinkles on them. Until I see them, I can't believe it. So I need to see those. So for now, these Smarties, which are just little tart candies, kind of chalky with flavor. I think I had 3 kinds, the regular, extra sour, and then like tropical fruit. I threw out the tropical fruit because they tasted like sour cardboard. So I thought, oh, I do love these. So these are the sour ones. They are sour. Anyway, I want to see those chocolate Smarties from Canada. Do you still have them, or are they from something that was from a long time ago? Okay, so let's talk about Kristen Hannah's book, The Women. What it's about is the women who were in the Vietnam War, who went over to serve from the USA. And I think that is a subject that has been largely overlooked. Women who served in Vietnam. And not just peripherally, like typing or, filing like an office job. Not that that isn't important, because it is. But out on the front lines in nursing. And so this particular character, her name is Frankie McGrath, and she comes from a long line of family men who have served. And there's a wall of fame in her father's office, in his den, of all the men there that have served. And it's a big wall of pride. And so her brother, Frankie's brother, is, see that developing, is set to go into the Navy, following his father's footsteps and grandfather, and before that, although the father for some reason couldn't serve, or I can't remember what the reason was that he couldn't serve, but anyway, Finn, her brother, is set to go in, and so they're having a big going away party for him, and he's very brave and handsome, and so they live down in the San Diego area, Coronado to be more specific, and she is out on the beach, just kind of thinking about things, and she sees her brother and his good friend Rye, and they're just having a good old innocent time on the beach. And back at her house, she's inside her dad's studio during this party, looking at this wall of fame, all these war heroes, and Rye comes in, and they have a little chat, and he's some tall, strapping boy, handsome and whatnot. And he tells her that women can be heroes too. And that really stuck with her. She was intending to go to school to become a nurse, but those words, women can be heroes too, really stuck with her. So she's in school, she's in nursing school, and she accelerates all her classes, and she has decided that she is going to go into the Vietnam War and serve. So she graduates fast because she's on a fast track, and she goes to the Navy to sign up, and they say, you haven't been a nurse long enough. And so they say, no, you can't join here. So she goes to the Air Force, and they say no. Well, then she goes to the Army, who would take you if you had a pulse, and she signs up with the Army. Well, she goes home to tell her parents, thinking they would be so proud of her. Now, her parents are remember, this is like the late 60s, maybe 67, 68, something like that. Her parents are very kind of like higher society, proper, country club, you know. Well, when she comes home to tell them, they blow it. I mean, they just have a huge blowout. They can't believe, A, that she's joining, and B, that she's going into the Army. It's like, why not the Navy? And she tells them, they didn't even take me. Well, she wants to follow her brother and serve. And so, anyway, during this time, now her parents are disgusted with her, and they let her know it. Her brother has gone off, and in that time, his helicopter has been shot down, and he was killed in action, like that. So, everybody is devastated, but she is more determined than ever to go in and serve and kind of honor her brother's memory. So she gets everything she needs, and off she goes, and she's getting sent to Vietnam. So after boot camp, she's on a plane and heading to Vietnam in all her proper uniform, and, she's got everything, organized just so. Well, they send her to the 36th evac hospital. She gets there. She's taken to this 400-bed hospital where they're bringing in blown-up boys, young men, who are, in bad shape. And she starts off by working in the neuro unit, and it's basically just taking care of the boys with head injuries or, traumatic brain injuries who are mostly in comas. But she talks to them and tries to encourage them, thinking maybe they can hear her. Maybe they can't. Many of them die. But a particular doctor notices her and says, hey, we could use you in the OR. And so she's brought over to the OR, and the OR itself is like a war zone. These helicopters land full of, bringing stretchers in, full of, all these hurt guys. And the first thing they have to do, of course, is triage them. Who's going to live and who's going to die? Who's going to need surgery? Who can wait? And the descriptions are just, you feel like you're there. You feel the chaos and the terror of it. And that's really what it's like for her. She is just thrown into this. And it isn't the proper nursing that she learned. It's all hands on deck. In her tent, where she sleeps, where she has her bunk, it's actually called a hooch. She meets two more seasoned nurses called, their names were Barb and Ethel. And they really help her out. They really show her the ropes and help her navigate this whole insane place. And because of their friendship, she makes it through somehow. Well, in the OR, they're so short-handed that sometimes she's called on to do operations herself, procedures on her own, not just assisting a doctor. Well, she meets, of course, this one doctor, this doctor named Jamie, and you can see the kind of the love interest starting, but she hears the girls tell her, Barb and Ethel tell her, he's married. And she just won't cross that line, which I'm glad to have read that part. And so it's this kind of unrequited passion and attraction and whatnot. And they've got a really good relationship, but she's not crossing that line and getting involved with him. Okay, I think my tea is ready to pour. This one is good. It's cranberry flavored. Oh, that's so good. So anyway, Christmas comes, holidays come and go, and sometimes there are lulls before they're bringing in these, these hurt, blown up boys, men from all these, helicopters coming in, and it really describes the war zone she is in and the trauma. And sometimes they're under attack, and, they've got missiles and gunfire coming at them, and they're shielding bodies with their own bodies. Patients, they're covering them with their bodies, protecting them. And anyway, it's very traumatic. Some of the stories that some of the patients that come through, some are, the boys that are fighting, and some are the Vietnamese people themselves. And it just really demonstrates their commitment to really helping to try to preserve life at all costs. It really is amazing. Well, Jamie has confessed that he loves her and wants her, and she's telling him, no, not going to go there. Anyway, something happens, and he suffers a critical injury, and long story short, she tends to him, but he's not going to make it. And so she says goodbye to him and knows that he's going to die. And so she's heartbroken. So as time goes on, she meets, once again, Rai, her brother's friend. He's an officer of higher rank, and she feels kind of the old attraction that she had for him way back when. And but of course he's an officer, and somebody tells her he's engaged. So she's like, oh goodness. So she's not going there either. So her friend Barb, who has just been really truly a solid friend, Barb and Ethel and her, they have really been a strong threesome. She's getting ready to leave. It's her time to leave. So during all of this, her mom will write her letters and just say, here's what's going on at home. And she's giving her viewpoints of the war that they aren't getting over there. Oh, you are so cute, Sputnik. What they're hearing is that they're winning the war. Just keep it up. They're hearing lots of American propaganda. They have no idea what's truly going on, but she's starting to hear from her mother and other sources that things aren't going as well as they're being led to believe. Well, Rai now tells her that he's broken his engagement off and he's free. So now they are free to have a relationship. And they do. She is extending her service, and he is as well. And she's in this, kind of a time off period. And of course, they meet up and have this big, love affair. And so she signs up for more, another tour of duty. Well, now it's time for Frankie to go home. And as she's preparing, she's hearing things from Barb saying, it's rough over here for vets, but she can't imagine, how bad it really is. Anyway, she flies home, and she's very excited about the fact that she and Rye can start their lives together. So she flies home in uniform. She's at an airport in the US, and somebody spits on her. People start calling her names like baby killer and all these horrible things. And she can't believe it because she has done nothing but save lives her whole time there, all lives. And it didn't matter who they were, and sometimes they were children. But she cannot believe the horrible reception she gets at home and how badly the vets are treated there, the Vietnam vets. It's really, really hard and sad. Well, she goes home to her house with her mom and dad thinking, yay, a warm reception. No, they treat her just as coldly. And her father is almost indifferent, almost like she doesn't exist. And it's, the dynamics there are just insane. But they are disappointed in her in a sense. So, anyway, she's trying to get on with her life again. So she goes to a hospital to get a job because she is now a very experienced nurse. But because she doesn't have nursing experience in the States, she's doing things like changing bedpans. She's got the night shift. I mean, the lowest of the low. And this, previous to this, she was doing operations on her own, surgical procedures on her own. And now she is just, treated like dirt. And she tries to explain to them, do you know what I did? And they're like, no, women didn't. Women didn't see anything over there. And I kind of knew this would happen, that somebody would need medical intervention, that, and she would be on hand to do it, and she'd do it, and that's exactly what happened. Had it not been for her, the patient would have died. Well, she got in trouble because of that. She went way beyond her scope of duty, and you can't do that as a nurse, particularly back then. So now she's starting to have nightmares. PTSD, and it wasn't called that back then, is starting to set in. She would hear explosions in her dreams, and she'd wake up in a cold sweat screaming, on the floor in her room, and her mom would come in. Well, her mom started giving her some pills that she thought might help her. It was all well-meaning and good-intentioned. She's having a really hard time adjusting back to civilian life. At her mom and dad's country club, someone says something and she just blows it and goes off the handle. And, it's just, she makes a big scene. So, her father lied to his friends and didn't say that she was in the army. He said that she was away at school or something like that. It's been a couple weeks since I finished it. So anyway, she blew up when it's like you couldn't even tell the truth about where I was. Amidst all of this, while she's waiting for Rye to return, she gets bad news that he's been killed. Like, whoa, double whammy. And so she's got even more trauma now to deal with. She was expecting him to come home, for them to be together, create their life together, and kind of reassimilate together. And now he's killed. Well, her friends Ethel and Barb I'm going to have these every time I do a book review. Whoa, they're so good. Anyway, Barb and Ethel are back, and she is in good communication with them. She even goes to take some time off at Ethel's farmhouse. She's got a family farm. And she goes there and takes some time trying to heal. There are protests, and I mean, it's just an ugly time. And I remember this because remember, this was the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s. Now, I wasn't very aware of everything happening because I was a young teen in the, early 70s. But I knew, I got a sense of it. I kind of, have some memories of it, but not much. Anyway, she goes to a protest, which was Vietnam veterans against the war. And kind of like people like her, they're saying, stop, enough. And while she's there, she bumps into a guy, and it turns out he's a psychologist. No, he's a psychiatrist. Anyway, she starts getting involved in other things. She helped at a POW, prisoner of war, fundraiser, and her parents are softening. Their relationship is starting to get a little better. Her father helps her get into a cottage. I think it was their cottage. And, so she's out of the house and in her own place. But she still has problems just really integrating and being back to normal. So, this guy that she met at that one Vietnam Vets Against the Vietnam War, his name was Henry. She runs into him again, and they strike up a relationship, and he actually helps her a lot because he understands what she's going through, in a sense, from a psychiatric point of view. And so they start a relationship, but it's more out of comfort than anything. Well, she finds herself pregnant. She tells Henry, and he says, let's get married. So you're thinking, okay, great, happily ever after. She's finally going to get some happiness in life, because she's really, really suffered. So the peace accord is signed, and as POWs are coming back, and everybody's coming back, she finds out that Rye is alive, that he was a POW all that time. So now here she is pregnant, engaged to this guy Henry, and yet who she thinks is her big love is coming home. So she goes to the airport that she knows he's going to be coming to, and when he gets off the airplane, she sees him, and then she sees his wife and child run up to him. He had been lying to her. The snake. I mean, I don't doubt that he loved her and, all that, but yeah, he called off his engagement by marrying her. So anyway, she's hit with another huge whammy. So she is just devastated, and in her grief, in all of what she's going through, she miscarries. But it also makes her question going through with this marriage with Henry. And she's honest with him, and she tells him. She tells him she can't marry him. She tells him why. She tells Ethel and Barb, and they support her. Anyway, her life is just really spiraling. And Rye shows up, and he professes his love for her, and he says he's going to be leaving his wife, and so they start up a relationship again. Well, it turns out that's not true, and it's just this tumultuous relationship. She tries to break it off with him, and in doing so, she's taking tons of drugs and drinking, and she has a really bad car accident, and she hits a guy on a bike, and just about kills him, but she didn't. But anyway, so now she's home on leave and just trying to, if she doesn't even get fired, she's just trying to make sense of her life. And Rye is promising her things that, he's going to be there for her. And then he proposes to her. He actually gets down on his knee and proposes to her. So that sucks her right back in. She believes him. Well, she's got a DUI charge now. And they were taking that to be a suicide attempt. And even though it wasn't, it may have been a veiled one. So she's getting a lot of care, psychiatric care now. And she reconnects with Henry. But see, she's now trying to get help, to get some counseling and therapy. And she goes to these vet groups, but they won't see her because they say, and this just gets me, women didn't see battle. Women weren't in the war. And she was like, yeah, we were. Let me tell you what I saw. Let me tell you what happened over there. But she was dismissed. And she could not get the services she needed. And about this time, do you remember, I don't know if some of you have seen the program MASH, M-A-S-H, and Mobile Army Surgical Hospital. Even with that being very popular, people didn't acknowledge that women went through traumatic service over in Vietnam. So she's trying to get help. Her, Henry, the guy that she was engaged to, is engaged to somebody else and getting married. So she's kind of happy for him, but of course it's bittersweet for her, and she's trying to find ways to deal with her emotions, her drug addiction, and just trying to her reintegration into society. So she's in a program that is finally starting to address some of these deep issues. By 1974, it is becoming better for the vets. People are starting to understand what it was they went through. They're starting to have their voices heard. And so she completes treatment, and she's clean now. She has, broken things off with Rye. She and Barb decide to take a road trip. And so she goes up to Montana, and they are driving around Montana, and something just strikes her as being so right. That feeling when something is just right and you just know it. She buys this old farmhouse and decides she's going to move up there, sell her cottage, and start afresh up in Montana. But her whole mission now is to remind people that the women were there, because the message she constantly got was women weren't there. Women weren't in Vietnam. And here's the real kicker. And if you're going to read this, this is the final twist. She meets Jamie again. He didn't die. Kind of like Rye, who was a POW. Jamie didn't die. She met him, and he is divorced. And they met him at a Vietnam memorial unveiling. So, but like I said, her whole mission now is to remind people, to tell the world they were there. So, like I said, it's been a few weeks and I've read 2 books since, so some of the details are a little bit, might be slightly out of order. But I would recommend this book. It's very moving, and it really makes you think about, I hate war. I hate that we have to have war. I'm a mom, first and foremost, and the thought of anybody hurting my children, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around because I have a very simplistic view of the world. I do. And I know it's much bigger than what I know and what most of us know. But it hurts my heart. I'm just too tender to think, for it all. So this helps remind me that there are, people out there who gave a lot for what they thought were really good reasons, compelling reasons. This is told from the perspective of a U.S. Army woman. But I know there are other perspectives out there too. And so I would recommend this book only because it was a good story. It wasn't too gory, but it did talk about all the hard things, which I don't often expose myself to. So, anyway, that was Kristen Hannah's The Women. I've read a couple of other books by Kristen Hannah, and I like them. I like her. As an author, I think she's good. One of the threads that are similar that run through some of her other books are the mother-daughter relationship thing, and somehow making that, bridging that gap, whatever that story was, So, yeah. One of them was The Winter Garden. That was a good one. That was a really good one. I would recommend that too. I read that many years ago. I think I read that just before we went to Russia. I was on a theme of kind of historical fiction and some nonfiction. And so Kristen Hannah's got a great way of storytelling. Anyway, that's a long blah, blah, blah with me eating candy and drinking herbal tea. And if anything, I hope it relaxes you. I just finished another book right now, The Sunsets in Singapore. It was okay. And I've got another book sent to me by an author, and I'm reading that next and reviewing that. And I like this author. Now, if you are an ASMR creator and you want to be a part of this book club, all you have to do is tell me, or Angel on my shoulder, Kim, tell her, and pick a book, and we will read that book and we will review it the last day, and I will put your name. I'll do a shout out for you on my channel as well as in the description. So I've got a couple of bites from others, so if this is what you want to do, let me know. And what we'll do is all do our own reviews. They may or may not be similar, but we'll shout each other out and, tag each other and expand our libraries. So I'm going to sign off for now. It's after 7, quarter after 7. My cats are saying, hey, you missed the 6 o'clock feeding. They're going to start rioting here in a minute. And I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to go finish these Smarties, the American version. I'd love to see that Canadian version. And go finish my tea. And I will see you very soon in the next video. Goodbye for now.